playing with confidence. Surges it inside 50.
Inside 50, good hands.
Drilling it into centre half forward. That was end-to-end football at its best.
Back-to-back goals either side of quarter time.
But it's done with the Bulldogs!
I'd fight somebody for you. There ain't no wall I wouldn't run through. In your corner when we're ringing the bell. Come hell or high water. I'd fight somebody for you.
Yes, hello WAFL fans, welcome one and all to a special Easter Monday edition of Around the WAFL on the Around the WAFL YouTube channel in collaboration with the WA Sporting Hub, an amalgamation of Front Row Screens and Associates, as well as your podcast service, as we are still in recovery from a fantastic long weekend of football. A couple of great games in the WAFL W and also in the WAFL, which opened the season with a bang, and a couple of shootouts over the weekend, which we're going to dissect across this program here on YouTube and your podcast service. Paul Persick's my name, great to have your company. Joining me is Ethan Roths, sounding slightly hoarse after the 3 games he called over the weekend, but it's great to see you, Rothy. What a weekend of footy.
Likewise, Paul. Great to be back, and happy Monday to everyone out there, Easter Monday. And yeah, what a weekend it was across the board. A few upsets, a few high-scoring results, and a few games with high crowds.
Yeah, the crowds were absolutely tremendous, and that to me was one big highlight. The crowds were back in full force. They witnessed some great matches, and the atmosphere can really reflect on whether they were at Mandurah for the opening game of the WAFL season, or even at Joondalup on Friday night for that classic between West Perth and Claremont, which we'll recap a little later on. The fans' appetite for WAFL footy is always there at this time of the year, and it always is during the year, but especially in round one where they're just eager to see a ball being kicked in anger, considering we're always the last of the state leagues to begin our season, but it was worth the wait on the weekend.
Yeah, exactly right. I think when you have those sort of traditional round one fixtures as well, the two teams coming up against each other, such as Subiaco, East Perth, and how West Perth and Claremont have done it over the years, I think, builds that rivalry, and you're right, people are just eager for footy. Some different time slots which allowed people to go to consecutive games.
Absolutely. We'll recap all the action throughout the program here today, and also in just a moment we're going to be chatting with Subiaco's captain Greg Clark off the back of their great 7-point win over East Perth at Sullivan Logistics Stadium on Good Friday. The Player of the Year votes will be cast, WAFL by yours truly, WAFL W by Ethan Roth. And speaking of yourself, Ethan, the Colts Report is back. We're going to look at some of the standouts from round one and a few results from the weekend, and also the top 3 plays of the week. And we've got a clue. We've got one play from the WAFL League, one from the WAFL W, and one from the Colts as well. So keep your eyes and ears peeled for that as well. Let's get down to business, everyone. And what a guest we have got first up after round one of the 2026 WAFL season. He is Subiaco's captain, coming off a fantastic performance on Good Friday in that 7-point win over East Perth. He's got the number 1 on his back, and he lived up to it. Greg Clark, he's good enough to join us here on Around the WAFL to kick off our special Easter Monday edition. Hello, Greg.
Hey guys, how are you doing?
Going very well. Congratulations on the win, Greg. First up, how's the morale of the team after that great win over East Perth, and a win that sort of puts the side in a bit of a clean slate after a few lean years?
Yeah, it was a great result to come out on top of a very tough battle with East Perth. It just felt like every time we'd build a good buffer on the scoreboard, they would lift their level and their intensity and bring it right back, which you'd expect from a strong side. We've been into the last 2 grand finals and had some big names come into their side since then. But we'll review the game strongly to take a lot of the learnings around how to manage momentum swings and control the game for longer, because in reality, you don't want to rely on a goal or 2 to win games. You want to control them for a bit longer. So it was a really great battle, really great game. Glad we got the result, but we know we've got a lot of growth and a lot of learning to take from it.
Fair few new faces out there, Greg, as well as some recruits. You must have been happy with the way the group was able to hang on, but also continue to get the lead and in a high-scoring game, keep their cool under pressure.
Yeah, that's right. We spoke quite heavily about it after the game. In the past 2 to 3 seasons, we've been in games at 3/4 time and then it slipped away from us. And so to be in that position against a really strong side in East Perth in round one, and to hang in there, to make sure we stuck together and stayed really connected and built on that resilient side of things, was really positive for us, because like I said, we know we're not going to be able to control games and control momentum for full games, but just to hang in there together and make sure we stayed really connected to get the win was great.
And to your side's credit, staving off 2 East Perth challenges in that second half where they came from 40 points down and then they had to come back from 19 points down to stay in the contest. Resilience is obviously the key lesson that Jared Schofield has taught you guys in the pre-season, hasn't it? And it's paid early dividends.
Yeah, we had a really strong hit out all pre-season from, I think it was November 18th was the first day, but in our discussions around how our pre-season went, it didn't actually start that day. It started when we had our exit meetings and Jared sat in on those, even though he wasn't technically coach at the time, and just really challenged us all to come back ready to learn and ready to grow and compete. And our whole pre-season was just being about competitive and really challenging one another, and it really stood the test on the weekend, which is a great start to the season.
There's been a lot made of the recruits, Jack Petrocelli, Jacob Light, who had their moments, even young Noah Hibbins-Hargraves on the weekend. But one player who maybe is flown under the radar, but has a good resume as anyone coming back to the footy club is Ben Sokol, Simpson medal, Burn Naylor medal. How important has his presence been, and how important is it for the young players to have a player like him, such a good role model?
Yeah, he really brings a lot of experience and leadership to the side. But when you look at the tools in our forward line of Jack Mayo, Ryan Borchett and Ben Sokol, the three of them really know and understand their roles and how they need to play together. And I think that'll cause headaches for back lines, because if you try to shut down one, it will always mean that someone else will potentially pop up so long as they play their roles. But yeah, I think Ben kicked a really great steadying goal late in the game, and you can just trust him to get his set shot, take big marks, do those sorts of things that, just you can rely on his experience in those moments. And yeah, it's great to have him back around the football club.
With Ben Sokol, of course, being that key pillar up forward, you also had another key pillar in defence in his first league game with Subiaco. Jacob Blight, formerly of Peel Thunder, was on Richmond's list last year, didn't get his true opportunity at the Tigers. Schofield has really utilised him quite well as that number one key defender in tandem with Stephen Gyro.
Yeah, Jacob's been great. Been a great addition to the football club. He brings a lot of professionalism, and he just brings a lot of weapons that we haven't potentially had in the past in terms of just a really true key backman. And also bringing Bob Girolami, or Nick Girolami, nicknamed Bob. The two of them working together, and they had that connection at Richmond as well, has served us really well across the pre-season. I think it'll continue to grow and build across the season as we go.
Great start to the season for you and the Lions. Next up, East Fremantle at the Good Grocer Park in round 2. Thanks for your time, Greg. All the very best, and we look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
That was Greg Clark, Subiaco's captain, joining us here on Around the Waffle. And very complimentary, especially of the younger faces over there, because they've got a lot of new recruits in that side, and they lived up to their early billing.
Yeah, they did, and kicked the first goal of the game, Greg Clark, as well, at the very start. And then, that's the perfect way as a skipper to get your season off to a bang. So, Subiaco, obviously round 1, so with losses, we're not really too much into it. The same can be said for wins, but having said that, I think not a lot of people would have tipped them to beat a team like East Perth, so it's a credit to them to start the year like that.
It certainly gives them an early spark to go on a big early run. We'll recap their win in a little bit more detail later on in the show, but we're going to clear a break, and when we do come back from that break, round 1, of course, the season of WAFL football back with a bang, and we'll break down all the matches in detail and cast the votes for the Around the Waffle Player of the Year. This is Around the Waffle. You can check us out on Facebook and also Instagram if you want some great social content. We're on YouTube and your podcast service. All thanks to our great backers, Sullivan Logistics, proud partners of WAFL 2026, Grants Car Stereo, Front Row Screens and District Promotions. We'll be back right after this.
Hey Siri, how to connect Bluetooth to Mac truck? Sullivan 2. What's your position?
Just a midfielder, mate.
On your left. Oh, come on, get out of the way.
Car Stereo Morley, proudly supplying and fitting quality car stereos for over 15 years, selling top name brands like Alpine, Focal, Rockford Fosgate. From a simple upgrade to complete custom systems, stop in and see Grant and the boys at 61 Russell Street, Morley, or visit us online at carstereo.com.au.
And you're back with us here on Around the Waffle on the Around the Waffle YouTube channel in collaboration with the new WA Sporting Hub and also your podcast service. Paul Persick and Ethan Roth bringing you all the action off the back of a huge Easter long weekend of football. We're going to go to Mandurah to start things off, Roffy. Pure Thunder and East Fremantle. There was nothing in it between the two sides all day, but in the end, the Thunder with some new faces as well as Docker in waiting Mason Cox, who tore it up in the ruck. They were able to get the job done and win by 13 points, 13-13, 91 to 11-12. 78. It was a game that was hanging in the balance for the first half, then Peel broke away, and then credit to the Sharks, especially with a lot of their younger faces playing their first game. They stepped up to the task and kicked 4 goals, but Peel just had a little more in reserve.
They did. It was a real arm wrestle, wasn't it? And at the start of the game, East Fremantle got off to quite the ideal start. Oscar Smart, how good was he? Particularly in that first half. If he plays like that, close to every week, I mean, he's going to be a revelation for the Sharks. He was outstanding, and even when the commentators, said he didn't have the distance or weren't too confident, he proved them wrong from long range. And he's got something about him, Oscar Smart. So it was a dream start for him in a loss, unfortunately, for the Sharks. But Pure Thunder wasn't a perfect performance by them, but they just ticked along nicely, and they were able to make more of their opportunities in front of goal.
Well, the Thunder, they weren't perfect. They were almost close to it, weren't they? Especially with the way they were using the ball from defence into attack. They got that extra man in the contest, and you had the likes of Lockie Tardrew, who had 27, Nathan O'Driscoll with 22, and Jeremy Sharp just continue to get better as far as their work rate is concerned, and that really was a key for Adam Reid's side. Yeah,
Jeremy Sharp playing more as an inside mid, bit of a new role over the off-season. He looks to break back into the Dockers side, he had 28. Looks, class above in that first half in particular. Just a ball inside, which, he's been typically used as that wingman, but a new change of role for him. And Mason Cox just dominated the hit-out. So you feel for East Fremantle and I guess all Waffle clubs, he's going to be very, very hard to stop with his height advantage. He was giving away, I think Eric Benning was giving away 13 above, it was something crazy like 13 centimetres.
If I'm being honest, no disrespect to Benning, but I feel that was going to be a one-sided battle, especially with Ruben Maguire out for the season with a knee injury. I reckon Maguire would have taken him on if he didn't get injured during that pre-season. So Eric Benning, he was going to have a steep mountain to climb against the man mountain Mason Cox, who just dominated in the ruck, and everyone's saying, he's that Dockers listed player, he has that extra fitness. So what? He did the job, and that's what you got to do against, strong sides like East Fremantle, who have been there, done that in the last couple of years. Coxie, to me, was just brilliant.
It was business like usual for Mason Cox. He didn't get carried away. He knows that he's probably going to have to put up maybe a couple more of those performances to really push his case, and of course maybe rely on some bad form from those in front of him. But it's going to be a challenge. Benning did kick a nice goal from long range in his first game for the club. Another player has been on Freo's list, so at least he got a little bit of confidence through that. But I think it was way more a reflection of Cox's dominance rather than Benning being terrible. I think that's the way it came across.
East Fremantle won't lose sleep with this loss, however. I don't think there's going to be those panic stations and alarms. Obviously it's round one, but just the way they were able to get back into the contest, because when you look at the margin, 4 goals at three-quarter time, they looked dead and buried. I thought Peel had all the momentum heading into that last quarter. Their key players were doing their roles as Adam Reid instructed them to, but the likes of Baskerville, Joyce, and also Cam Erdley brought them back into the contest. And as he said, Oscar Smart, he was brilliant in the forward line. He's going to be that barometer forward, along with Robinson from Norwood in South Australia. He kicked a couple of goals, quite handy as well in the context of East Fremantle's fortunes in that game. So 13 points, there's a lot of positives to take if you're an East Fremantle fan. They were competitive with the Thunder side, who are going to be quite a threat, again, this season with, the influx of Dockers players that are coming in and out of the side and a good mix of their local players too. So the Sharks, they don't deserve to have their heads down. I reckon they keep them up.
Yeah, I thought they did better than what I was expecting for them to do to stay in the hunt. And Jack Avery watched the space there with an injury,
Yes.
so he's a really important player for them, went off earlier in the game. So hopefully that's not too long term. But you're right. I think East Fremantle, there's plenty to build on, especially, yes, I thought Smart was a shining light.
Peel Thunder winning by 13 points in the opening match of WAFL 2026. Now from Mandurah, we go to Lathlane. Perth and the West Coast Eagles, the co-tenants of MRP, doing battle. And what a shootout this one was. Well, it was for the Perth side of things because they scored a mammoth 24-9, 153 to West Coast 13-10, 88. The Demons by 65 points. And regardless of the quality of the opposition, that's a statement win if you're a Demons fan.
It was. And probably a reflection of how, I guess, the difference between the two sides at the moment, and the two key forwards up forward combined for 13 goals. My pick for the Burnley Nailer, Aaron Clark, did his chances no harm in an early stage, supported by Johnston, of course. But yeah, Perth, they just piled it on. They had support right across the board. Obviously, Charlie Constable, you were there calling the game, so he had 35 disposals. I thought Indy Kirk was really good on debut as well, kicking a goal and having 22 disposals. A player I was really impressed by was Riley Wills, 3 goals as well.
Wills, he's going to make up, that contingent of that small forward that you need to, assist the likes of Johnson and Clark, who've got a little bit more muscle, a little bit more height, but Wills just makes up for it by his mobility inside that forward 50, and the way he gathered those opportunities heading for goal was typically of the opportunistic player that he is when he gets that loose ball inside that forward 50. Kirk, I will agree, was impressive. Matty Taylor, as reliable as ever off the half-back line, but to me, I thought the most impressive was Baxter Phillip. He held down that Demons back line so well, and when you've got Charlie Dean as that new recruit, it does ease up the workload on Elijah Scoble, and all three can play quite fluently in that back six for the Demons. They lead that back line so well, and they did, holding down the West Coast Eagles forwards to virtually nothing. Yeah,
Baxter Phillip, has quite poise off half back and can go into the wing as well, and potentially has some scope to go in the middle as well. So he's another impressive Demon coming through the ranks. Eagles, hard to find too many positives. You would have liked a better outing for them. I thought Bailey Williams is probably the one who reminded Eagles that he's still there in the wings as a ruck option.
He wasn't originally selected for that game. He was a late in, and he made the most of his chance, didn't he?
Yeah, that long goal from 3 on the brink of 3/4 time, which was magnificently called by yourself. He kicked a nice goal there. I think it's just a depth issue for West Coast. Obviously, it's been known that the gap between
the top sides and the bottom sides in the competition.
And also, the players as well. Like, you've got those AFL listed players, but they're still inexperienced, a lot of them. And that support from the top up players still coming through. Elijah Hewitt, good to see him get through, kicking a goal, having 14 disposals, getting some more minutes as he tries to push his case for the AFL.
Well, I think the same thing can be said for Tyrrell Dewar. I thought Dewar was the Eagles' best in that game on Saturday. Over 20 disposals, 25, 5 inside 50s. He tried his heart out, and that's really all you can do in a side that, it does have a lot of issues surrounding depth, and the gap between the, top-ranked players and the bottom-ranked players for the Eagles is so far out there, they're still going to have a lot of issues during the season. But the way Dewar held his own against that rampant Demons midfield, against the likes of Constable, Taylor and company, I thought was tremendous, and he'll have a lot of positives to take out of his own performance.
Yeah, and it's only round 1, so again, don't want to, overreact or anything like that, but obviously we did both predict West Coast to be bottom of the WAFL table. How long does this keep going on for? How long do they just keep being uncompetitive in the WAFL for? I mean, it just keeps on happening year after year. And again, round 1, taking that into account, probably worse than one of the premiership favourites. So, you've got to take that into consideration. But is every team just going to come up against West Coast an instant win, an instant percentage booster for them to make the most of? Or are they going to be competitive?
I don't think that's really the case, because it all depends on the amount of AFL players that they had. Now, they had 13 in that game, and the cap for the Eagles usually around 15, 16. And remember, they had 16 in the win over Subiaco, but Subiaco were going through a rebuild. So how long they can go about this, how long can, the competition, and how long can the Eagles fans let this happen? Again, it's all dependent on AFL selection, and I reckon WA football, in that regards to what you're pointing out, needs to have a look at how they handle the Eagles alignment team, because Peel at the moment, they're handling theirs a lot better with the Dockers alignment than the Eagles at the moment. But the Demons, nonetheless, they scored big, didn't they? And thanks to WAFL Footy Facts, by the numbers we have got for you in the league games in 2026, 153, which was Perth's score, highest against West Coast, and their highest since 2009. and the fourth time they've scored more than 150 points since 1997. And you talked about the numbers 6 and 7. Well, the goals kicked by Aaron Clark, 7, and Kane Johnston, 6. It is the first time two Demons have kicked 6 or more goals in a game since that very same year, 97, in round 19, when they both kicked 7 goals against the Swans. Those players being Austin Davis and former Eagle Brett Spinks.
Yeah, some key numbers there that tell the picture. So, happy days for Perth, but they've got bigger ideas in mind, and looking to tick that one off and have a big clash that we'll preview later in the week against South Fremantle.
Yeah, that's going to be a ripper, no doubt about that. The first month is going to be one tough run. Speaking of South Fremantle, they were minus 3 key players who were ruled out with injury, but they put their best foot forward in the last quarter. 6 goals to 2 when they led by 3 at three-quarter time, going on to win by 45 points, 16-12 to 9-9. And while South Fremantle didn't really click into top gear until the last quarter, their professional approach and their high standard brand of football really was impressive in front of almost 4,000 out there at Bassendean.
Yeah, great crowd getting down to watch this one. And Swans, they showed they were up to a few new faces like Clint Hinchliffe getting 22 disposals on debut. Familiar, like Jesse Turner, familiar faces doing his thing with close to 40 touches. And good to have their players back out there as much as anything. I think, there'll be a lot taken from that game. Okay, South Fremantle, blew it out a bit late, but they are the reigning premier who only lost 1 game last year for a reason.
Okay, they were blown away in the last quarter, I will agree, but, they showed a lot of endeavour, and those players that came back, and they complimented the likes of the regulars that have been there. C-Pro was impressive. Tina was impressive across the half-back line. True, with 22 disposals, was fantastic. Reedy, okay, he had 11, but he bobbed up forward with a couple of vital goals when the game was in the balance, and Jesse Turner, 38 disposals as well. Okay, there was some continuity that lacked in the last quarter, but I think it's going to be a good lesson for Andrew Prune and his boys to learn. I reckon they're going to play tough for 120 minutes against the top sides like South Fremantle and East Perth, who they've got next, and we'll preview that game on Thursday. They know that they're going to have to hang tough for 4 quarters, and they've got the players to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. Positives across the board. I think for South Fremantle, a lot of positives as well. Bollineu sort of stepped up as an unlikely goal kicker hero, kicking 5, including a couple of impressive ones. One from the boundary that stood out from a set shot in particular.
Especially the forward line was without Donaldson and even Parker, who can drift up forward after getting his 30 disposals. So the fact that they had that tall option up forward, who was very reliable, is a really good sign that they have incredible depth under Craig White.
Yeah, absolutely. And one player I wanted to highlight on debut, Lucas Robinson, having 27 disposals, Freo NGA in his draft here. So, I don't think he'll be playing Colts anytime soon off the back of that.
No, I reckon he could be a league regular.
Yeah, proving the critics wrong, or the recruiters wrong a little bit. I guess missing out in the AFL Academy earlier in the season, but sometimes that can play into your hands when you get a full run of that at state league level. And he was tremendous, looked right at home, and I think he's boosting his stocks quite early in the season already.
I thought Rowan O'Hare was impressive too. A couple of those younger-aged players, those bottom-aged players in the league side, just continuing to show their strength in midfield, had 24 disposals and kicked a goal as well. And, of course, we mustn't forget Trey Rusco, of course, a runner-up in the Burning Nail medal. He started off strong with 4 goals. He, again, like Bollineu, was going to be that threat.
He is, so reliable. And you talk about Rowan O'Hare in the number 1 Guernsey, so replacing the great Hayden Sloyth. And
that is some big shoes to fill.
Doing the Guernsey no harm whatsoever in the first round of the season.
The King of Bulldog Land would certainly be proud of a great player carrying the tradition of the number 1. For South Fremantle, by the numbers, thanks to WAFL Footy Facts, following that 45-point win, it's their 16th straight win, and they are 1 away from their club record, 17 wins in a row, which they achieved in, get ready for this, 1953.
Wow, it's quite unbelievable, isn't it?
They could be creating history on Saturday if they beat Perth.
Yeah, so no pressure.
No doubt about that. But well done to South Fremantle. They were absolutely tremendous in that. One more player we'd love to note from both sides. Hamish Free in the ruck, 44 disposals. He's picking up where he left off in the grand final, where he won the Simpson medal. And we talked about Clint Hitchcliffe a little earlier. I'd like to point out Josh C-Pro as well. Coming back from injury that sidelined him for a lot of last season. He looked great out there. I mean, he's showing no sign of his prior injury that kept him out last year. And I think he's going to be one of those viable assets that can play a little bit down back, but provide great run and carry in midfield.
Yeah, he's a real stalwart, really. Yeah. I mean, he's been there over a decade now. Brought up his 100th game not too long ago. He flies under the radar a little bit. He's maybe not the biggest name like a Jesse Turner or whatnot, but there's no doubt when he's in the side, they're a lot better, and he's quite versatile as well. Has a good left foot on him.
No doubt about it. Great work by those young Swans, but the Bulldogs, they just kept biting along. 45-point win over Swan Districts to kick off their premiership defence. Now, how about the shootout at Sullivan Logistics Stadium under the lights of Leederville? And Subiaco, they led it twice by some sizable margins. East Perth came back, but as he said to Greg Clark earlier, they had enough in reserve, able to show that resilience and hold on by 7 points in a great game. 35 goals kicked in that game. If this is the standard that the teams will have to follow, we're going to be in for a hell of a season, and Subiaco and East Perth may have set the bar.
Yeah, they might have, but I think we've got to be careful. That's probably not going to happen every week, but we've got to celebrate it when it does happen.
Absolutely.
I think, people in the crowd and watching on 7 Plus would have had a great old time seeing an old classic shootout. And Subiaco, obviously they were challenged when East Perth came back, but for a young group to stand up like that and finish off the job was really impressive in game number 1 under Schofield.
Absolutely, especially those experienced that played so well in tandem with the young stars. It's not just the young stars that are having to step up, it's obviously the experienced guys, and they stood up when it counted. The Hickmott boys in particular, they both got all over 25 possessions. In the case of Will, 28, Liam, 31. Jack Mayo took a couple of stocks in the ruck and also kicked a couple of vital goals up forward. Stefan Gyro, he was impact everywhere around the ground, and his role as that utility, coming back from an ACL injury not too long ago, keep in mind, he's showing that he's going to be very valuable over there at the Lions. Very impressed with his performance.
Yeah, I think we forget how good Steph Gyro can be sometimes. He can be sometimes. Like he came off the ACL, hit the scoreboard. He often does hit the scoreboard. He's a goal-kicking midfielder, which he's added to his game in recent times.
But can also play in defence as well. That's how versatile he truly is.
Yeah, can play half-back, go to the wing. But yeah, they really live when Steph Gyro's there. I think when he's at his best, he's as good as any player in the WAFL. So yeah, he was brilliant, and I think maybe 3 standard votes coming up for him on the game.
It could be. East Perth, of course, they were without Hamish Brayshaw. They were without Medhat as well. Who knows if that could have made a difference in that game? We can only speculate at the end of the day, but they did have some valuable options in the forward line. 5 goals for Tom Graham and 3 for Seba Kuek. I reckon he's got a point to prove after being left out of last year's grand final, and he certainly made it.
Yeah, it speaks to the depth when he's left out of the grand final, but coming back, he's so athletic and hard to match up on. Darcy Craven also kicked 3 goals in his return from the Brisbane Lions. I thought he's just a live wire, and show why he did get snapped up pretty quickly in that mid-season draft. So
40 hitouts for Scott Jones as well.
Yeah, Scotty Jones obviously spoke to him last week on the show, so maybe that's a good omen, but obviously they didn't win, so going to take it.
Well, we did have a good omen for Subiaco because we aired their on location piece the Thursday before and they won.
Yeah, maybe it's the way to do it, but East Perth, they won't be getting carried too much away with the loss. They would have obviously loved to win, but you can't expect them to come away and play their best footy from round 1, although, they were expected to beat Subi.
They certainly were. The expectations were obviously there. They kept right in it, having to come back twice from those deficits. 40 points, obviously, often hard to come back from late in the third quarter into the final siren, and then they had to come back from, 18 or 19 points once again to get within that 7-point margin. So a credit to them. They showed resilience as well to fight back from those dire positions that they were in the second half. And you talk about Amajuri with 21. Okay, wasn't up to his lofty standards, but 21 vital disposals for Amajuri. Stan Wright, 32, keeps racking them up, was very impressive. And Cooper Stevens, you've touted him as a Sandover medal favourite, and he's certainly showing why he's got high billing. 31 possessions. He's been impressive in the pre-season and continues on Friday.
Yeah, they would have loved to get a win from him in game number 1, but he just broke through like he's been there and done it before a lot up until this point. So 31-1, I think it's a good building block for Cooper Stevens moving forward.
By the numbers, thanks to WAFL Footy Facts from that game, this was 37 goals, and along with the 35 that East Perth and West Coast kicked in that game, it's the first time that 2 games have 35 or more goals kicked in the same round since 2012. So those 4 teams have a special slice of history after Friday.
They do. Great numbers here by WA Footy Facts. So thanks to Rick for providing those.
Absolutely. He is the guru of numbers and stats. Great to have him on board in 2026. Let's go to Saturday. And the lone game on Saturday between West Perth and Claremont. And heavens, look away if you're a West Perth fan. If I'm being honest, Claremont, they just put on top gear and they never got out of it. 74-point win for Claremont over West Perth. 19-12 to 8-4. And it was all set up by that first quarter. 4 goals to 0. And those Tigers under Ash Prescott, they just don't look back, don't they? They showed class everywhere. They were first to the football, and they were just more desperate, while West Perth, I'm going to be honest, didn't even show up.
Yeah, it was ultra-professional performance by Claremont. They've had their knockers, including myself, coming into this year. Truly, a class above. Talon DeLacy obviously got off the leash. They tried to tag him, they kicked 4 in the end. He's becoming a real pivotal player for the Tigers. But yeah, straight from the outset, they didn't score in the first quarter, and I think anytime you do that in WAFL football, you're going to be miles behind the 8 ball.
They certainly are, and well, Claremont, they were on the receiving end of that last year, and they certainly learned a lot of lessons from that by inflicting a big run on West Perth in that first quarter. England captain was tremendous, 28 disposals. Alvarez, 25, running off the half-back line down to midfield. Bailey Rogers, who revealed in the paper on the time of this recording on Monday morning that, he's been battling a few Achilles problems, but he's still fighting fit and gives it 100%. 27 disposals and 3 great goals. We mustn't forget Jaden Hunter too, who kicked a big bag of 4 as well, along with Talon DeLacy. So Claremont, ultra-professional setup, and they just keep showing those early results. Callan England, on the subject of the Claremont co-captain, I spoke with him immediately after the match in the winning rooms, and here's what he had to say.
It's probably been a bit of history with, not stringing together 4 quarters. So it's something we are definitely focusing on. And today I thought we gave a 4-quarter effort, so we can't complain.
Rogers kicked a few goals, a couple of freak goals, the spark of the Sandover medalist, but also you had contributions from the likes of DeLacy and Van Rooyen, who were amongst the goals as well. It's so great to have so many forward weapons inside that 50, and those that are very versatile too.
Yeah, I think our forward line is just so potent. Like, you've got DeLacy, you've got Gouds, you've got Hunter, you've got Bailey Rogers when he goes down there. Then you add in Tal DeLacy, then you add in Zach Mainwaring. I mean, the list goes on.
It certainly does. And the new faces as well also showed plenty of ticker as they expected to in their first game. And there was a lot of positive vibes around the club with the new faces like Headland and Sheldrick coming back over side.
Yeah, I know. Task today. The run and carry that he provides is just so good for our ball movement and suits the new game perfectly. And I think another player that's come back from East Perth was Alex Pearce.
Yes, wasn't he brilliant?
Absolute awesome game. His composure and his skills off half-back is, something we were probably lacking a bit last year, and he's really helping it.
And Mountford in the back line really complements the work of Pearce, doesn't it?
Yeah, you know what you're going to get with Deck. I think everyone around the WAFL knows what you're going to get with Deck Mountford, and he's, one of the great teammates, and he'd be first picked every week.
Claremont co-captain Callan England, still with plenty of work to do, he says, for his side, if they are to really be a major contender come finals time. But very happy with his side's opening round win.
Yeah, taking that measured approach from a Claremont point of view. And I think it's the stars for sure, but I think it's that younger brigade coming up. So the likes of Pearce, Alvarez, who's had another season into him, and 3 or 4 years in, these sort of guys. Elliott, they're stepping up to the plate. We know they're getting towards some seasoned WAFL players now, but still, I think we know what the A graders can do, but it's that next brigade of consistency for the Tigers, which is going to hold them in good stead as they did against the Falcons.
Pearce was brilliant in the back line. 10 marks to go with his 28 disposals. Eastland in the ruck, as predicted. 35 hitouts. He's going to get them every week, and I reckon he'll be looking forward to the matchup against Mason Cox on Saturday with great confidence backing up that performance. And England, as we mentioned, 28 disposals, just keeps on going. West Perth, I don't think you could find genuine positives out of that game, if I'm being honest. Okay, Lynch had 20, Shane Nelson, the usual suspects, had 24, and again, the forward line relied on Keitel and not to provide that scoreboard pressure, but they just didn't look like they turned up at all. They turned the ball over when going forward, and they barely got it out of that defensive half when the ball went their way.
Yeah, a little bit of a concern for them. I thought Connor West, if any positives, was probably that. He had 29 disposals on the day, which led both sides. So a lot to work with for West Perth and Paul Sanzoni. But I think we can't take away what Claremont, how they showed up as well, a premier outfit.
And they showed up with intent, and they delivered on that intent as well. Round 1 is in the books. We'll show you our first league ladder after round 4, which is the Anzac long weekend. Same case with the WAFL W, with round 4 coming up very, very soon as well. By the numbers, thanks to WAFL Footy Facts, no points, donuts in the first quarter by West Perth. First time since 2012 that the Falcons have been held scoreless by Claremont in the first quarter, and only the 5th time ever. And West Perth's loss sees them in 10th. So there's a little allude to the ladder to you, and that's the number of times West Perth have been in 10th on the WAFL ladder at the end of the round. It's only round 1, but that's an unwanted record.
It is, but hopefully for their sake, it's only just round 1, and that's where it sits.
Yes, fingers crossed for the Falcons after that performance. Okay, it is my distinct pleasure for the first time in 2026 to cast the Around the WAFL Player of the Year votes. And this is round 1 of the WAFL, and we'll start things off with Baxter Phillip of Perth. He gets 1 vote. His role holding down that back 6 along with the likes of new debutant Charlie Dean and stalwart Elijah Scoble, I thought was brilliant. His 20-plus disposals and his usage of the ball from defence into midfield was nothing short of immaculate. Bailey Rogers gets my 2 votes from Claremont. 3 goals and another 20-plus disposal game. He just continues to rack them up and deliver when it counts. And he's a Sandover medalist. And, he's got the runs on the board. Just keeps on delivering. 3 votes from South Fremantle, Jordan Bologna. He was the unexpected goal-kicking hero, as you alluded to earlier, in that win over Swan Districts. 5 goals, and he could be one that South Fremantle will look to build their forward setup on, because he's that prime tall forward. Obviously makes up for the loss of Strom, who's retired, and he certainly can be a viable option in front of goal. 4 votes from Peel. Mason Cox, just dominant. Need I say more? Was just dominant around the ball, in the hit-outs. Took Eric Benning to the cleaners, and I reckon he could be a Freo docker in waiting if he gets selected for any of the games later down the track. But my top gun for this week, the first of the year from Subiaco, Stefan Gyro. Just brilliant all round the ground. He is one that usually can play in defence, but he switched up his game and has done it to great effect. He can get 20 disposals in the midfield, can hold down the back 6 and restrict any opposition forward of opportunities, and to kick 3 goals inside 50 himself. Just magnificent. That's a modern, versatile footballer at the highest standard. So Stefan Gyro, he gets the maximum 5.
Yeah, he can do it all, Carney, when he gets going. Mason Cox as well is interesting. Like, we've sung his praises. He actually had a slow start to the game. Like, only had the 1 touch. I think getting towards the quarter time stage. But other than that, he just did the hit outs to his advantage. So some great votes there.
Speaking of votes, Rothy, you'll cast yours a little bit later on for round 2 of the WAFL W competition. We're going to clear a break, and when we do come back, Ethan Roth is going to dish out his Colts report after round 1 of 2026, and we'll also recap round 2 of the WAFL W with all 4 games being played on Good Friday. It's all thanks to Sullivan Logistics, proud partners of WAFL in 2026, district promotions, front row screens, and Grant's Car Stereo Morley. Back with more after this.
Hey Siri, how to connect Bluetooth to Mac truck?
Sullivan 2, what's your position?
Just a midfielder, mate. On your left. Oh, come on, get out of the way.
Car Stereo Morley, proudly supplying and fitting quality car stereos for over 15 years, selling top name brands like Alpine, Focal, Rockford Fosgate. From a simple upgrade to complete custom systems, stop in and see Grant and the boys at 61 Russell Street, Morley, or visit us online at carstereo.com.au.
Thanks for joining us here on Around the WAFL. You're watching on the Around the WAFL YouTube channel in amalgamation collaboration with the WA Sporting Hub and amalgamation with Front Row Screens and Associates. Paul Persick and Ethan Roth with you. Rothy, first time in 2026. Let's get it going. Your Colts report. Round 1 is in the books, and what did you see that stood out to you the most in the opening round?
Yeah, well, it all started in Mandurah on Thursday night, where East Fremantle came away with a 49-point win. Probably wasn't a reflection of the game, because they blew it out late, and Peel Thunder were very good. I mean, we're talking about a side who didn't win a single game last year. New coach, Stephen Thompson, so I thought Peel were up for the challenge, and they'll take some positives from that. Kai Ormerod kicked 4 goals. To lead the way there, and yeah, they had a lot of players step up to the plate. Finyo had 24 disposals, 4 assists as well. I thought he was really, really good, and the captain Drew Clark led the way for Peel Thunder, so that's a positive for them. Bit of an upset, you could say, for Good Friday, maybe not. East Perth 18-point winners over Subiaco. Again, seesawing game. Subiaco had their chances in the end, but back-to-back wins on Good Friday in consecutive years for the Royals. Then we went to later that day, Steel Blue Oval, where South Fremantle, without Lucas Robinson, coming off a grand final last year, won by 29 points. Sam Hooken was really good. Chase Vanderhook had 23 disposals and 2 goals as a bottom major. The co-captain led the way. So, yeah, a bit to work on for Swan Districts. And then the other game that I called on Saturday night, the lone Colts game on Saturday, was actually a classic in the end. Surprisingly, I thought Claremont obviously came away with a 7-point win, but West Perth were pretty happy they matched it with them the whole way. And yeah, some notable performance from the likes of Campbell Craig here, 26 disposals and 2 goals. George Gale, 32 disposals, but Claremont led the way. Maxim Collins on debut for West Perth as well, had 30 disposals. And so, yeah, and also Tart Barraclough had 23 disposals and 14 marks down back. Yeah, can go through the whole list. Lockie Sheldrick, actually, I said on the call, would have been interesting. He debuted for Claremont Colts. His brother Angus was playing at Optus Stadium at the exact same time for Sydney, and Oliver Sheldrick played before him at Joondalup. So I was saying on the call, I wonder where the parents would be. Obviously, not every day that Angus plays at Optus, being a Sydney Swans player, but then also not every day Lockie's going to debut for the Colts. So I think, Matt, it would have been an even split, perhaps.
That would have been some day for the Sheldrick family, playing in 3 separate games, and the parents, would they have to go 20 minutes of this game, 20 minutes of this game, and maybe 20 minutes of the game at Optus Stadium with the Sydney Swans? Who knows?
Yeah, well, I mean, the beauty of streaming and whatnot, I'm sure the YouTube would have got a run in 7+ if they were not able to go to the game at HIF Health Insurance Oval.
But a great win for Claremont nonetheless. So great Colts report as always. Rothy, of course, he is very keen eye on the Colts this year, no doubt about that. The Bray and Ethan show, you can check that out as well. Great show that is with himself and Bray Loveridge. Now, WAFL W, round 2. We saw some big results, Rothy, over the weekend. But how about those Swans? After kicking only 1 goal in the first quarter, they stepped it up a gear after quarter time, and they won this encounter at Steel Blue Oval over the Bulldogs by 48 points. And it's that lady again, Jamie Henry. If she's not an early Dara Kerr favourite, I don't know who is.
Yeah, it's hard to argue. If she's not in the frame for AFLW, I don't know who is as well from a state league perspective. Close to 40 touches again, had the 5 tackles, and just an inside ball. She's class above at the moment, off the back of a grand final performance last year.
Considering that they've got the second youngest side in the WAFL W competition, it's amazing that they've been able to rack up such a great early run. They were dominant against Claremont, and they do it again against South Fremantle. 2 great wins by some big margins too, over 40 points. Jason Burton's side has really got them going at an extra gear. They've upped their intensity in their training during the pre-season. They keep on applying that to their match day situations, and the numbers really show. I mean, Quaif in the ruck, 24, as you said. Edwards, 3 goals straight from 10 disposals, along with Ash Sharp and Summer Yaron, who kicked 2 great goals from great situations. She continues to show her flair in that forward line. They just ran over South Fremantle from go to woe.
Yeah, they deserve to be clear premiership favourites for mine at the moment. Again, only a couple of rounds in, and the likes of Claremont had a good win, but they're very impressive at the moment. I think the thing maybe that's different to past years with a premiership favourites, they're not going to have a lot of players go out through state 18s, etc., like we saw with the Subiaco last year. They're pretty settled. Of course, there's always opportunities that come up with AFLW and state footy and whatnot, but for now they seem pretty settled, which is very, very important.
Naomi Baker flew under the radar for her 22 disposals, but the way she used the football was brilliant against a South Fremantle side that, didn't have the same running legs to counter the rampant pressure that Swan Districts put on. Yeah,
I think Naomi Baker started the games really well. Called a game last week against Claremont, and she really set the tone and did so again on the weekend. South Fremantle obviously coming off that high in that derby win, and look, they weren't completely embarrassed. They still obviously got some score on the board, but class above, and they didn't score a goal up until the third quarter, and they didn't score anything in the second quarter. So Palmer's back the lone hand, which she's been reliable towards the back end of last year, but as we sort of highlighted in the pre-season, that is my concern with no Zoe Huggett there now. Who was going to step up, and unfortunately that was exposed a little bit on the weekend.
That forward line is going to be exposed for quite a long time when you're looking at it. If they're going to keep relying on the likes of Palmer's back to kick their goals, and also when you have no Zoe Huggett, who's that number 1 key forward in your lineup, there's going to be plenty of problems, and I think that might be just the start of a bigger problem for South Fremantle as far as they're concerned. Michaela Hyde, 22 disposals. She was serviceable to an extent. So was Gomes with 22, but not to the same effect as Swan Districts had throughout that afternoon, and as a result, they were just overrun. Their legs were tired in the second half. Okay, they were able to, kick a couple of goals in the second half, but by then, they were just overrun. They were out of gas, and Swan Districts just kept piling on the pressure and the pain as far as they were concerned. Swan Districts big winners by 48 points. What about East Fremantle? They did not kick a single goal in the derby last week. They responded and how with a 40-point win over Peel Thunder at Lane Group Stadium. This is a great turnaround, isn't it? It really restores the confidence in the playing group, doesn't it, Ethan? Especially with Keeley firing in the ruck, Mackenzie Webb in midfield, and Wilson Sieber amongst the goals. A magnificent 180 they've performed.
Yeah, and I think it's great maturity as well to not get caught up in the loss. They obviously would have been disappointed in that derby loss against South Fremantle, but to come away with a comprehensive victory in the end obviously helps when you have players come back into the lineup such as Wilson Sieber, etc., Jezerski Brown on display. But multiple goal kickers in the form of Wilson Sieber, Johansson and McNaughton. I thought Noel McNaughton was a class above. 29 disposals, 2 goals. I think, she's destined for a breakout year.
And would you think as well, just going on to Peel Thunder, Chloe Wrigley's suspension, obviously out for 3 weeks, that had some effect, didn't it? Because the midfield dynamic is often led by Wrigley. I mean, they work around Wrigley's skill set and her work rate. They just didn't have the same, especially without Wrigley. And I'm not, putting that emphasis on Chloe Wrigley, not putting pressure on her, but gee, just not having her in that midfield does screw up the dynamic a little bit.
Yeah, Caleb Butler kicked a couple, but they're not the same. I mean, I guess we talk about the slow starts. They actually had a better start kicking 2 goals, but they didn't kick that third into the last quarter. So it's impressive to start the game well, but obviously going to be able to close it out. And East Fremantle, it was. I think any time you score close to 60 points in WAFL W at the moment, I think it's a great sign.
And that's an indication. We saw more than 2 teams get over 60 points. We had a close one that we're going to talk about a little later. It shows that teams like East Fremantle, West Perth, Claremont, also Swan Districts are the standard bearers of WAFL W, and its improving standard as far as its skill and its scoring and the way the game is played.
Absolutely, and I think as I said, East Fremantle would have been disappointed, but for them to bounce back, and they made finals last year, so okay, there's a lot of change, but the winning morale of the group, for the players that are still there, the likes of Canane, McNaughton in her second year, Flynn, they've still got some seasoned players there. So I think, although we're both predicting to slide a little bit, I think that fabric of winning is still there amongst those players that can be contagious when they get on a roll like they did.
Yes, they certainly did, and a big way too. 40-point winners, East Fremantle over Peel Thunder at Lane Group Stadium. And then we go to Mineral Resources Park under lights. It was a grind between Perth and Subiaco. The Demons, to their credit, they threw down the gauntlet, so to speak. They held Subiaco to 5 behinds. But a half-time talking to by Baker Denham, the Lions coach, seemed to have paid off in the end. Okay, only 4 goals between the two sides, but a win's a win in any level of football. And Subiaco, they proved that. 12-point winners, 3-6 to 1-6. But Perth, they deserve a lot of credit for the way they kept on challenging the Lions. Even though they did get overrun in that last quarter and they were starved of opportunities, I reckon Subiaco, they've still got plenty of work to do despite this win.
Yeah, low-scoring affair, as you mentioned. The midfield got to work. The usual types of Shepherd, Steen had over 30 disposals. Petreski had 27. Annabelle Johnson was good with 19 as well. Outside of Isabella Shannon for Perth, though, there wasn't a lot to love. Obviously, inaccuracy for both teams as well. So that'll be something they'll want to get to work on in the coming weeks. Probably expecting more from Perth. They're in their second year. We understand that. But, I think, obviously, it's early on and they're going to try and find their feet. But, probably expected more from them, to be honest. I thought, they were going to take it right up to Subiaco. Okay, 12 points isn't a massive result, especially in a low-scoring game. But, I thought they probably weren't at their sharpest.
I might agree with your sentiment and reverse that result on as far as the sides are concerned. I reckon I expected more from Subiaco, if I'm being honest. Okay, 12-point win, but the amount of quality that the Subiaco playing group has got, I think this winning margin actually would have flattered Subiaco when you're looking at it, because, they have Petreski, they have Stain, they've also got Paige Shepherd and also Layla Quinn-Schofield to kick the goal to go with her 12 touches inside 50. And we talk about Petreski, obviously, 27, but it did not seem convincing. That win did not seem convincing, if I'm being honest. If it was maybe a 45-point win, and I don't like to be picky, maybe that would have been a bit of redemption achieved after their shock loss to West Perth in round 1. But there's still a lot of areas in their game that need a lot of improvement, especially when the competition is getting a lot closer. And I reckon Baker Denneman knows that, and I think the players know it as well.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Like, they obviously tick off a win, which they start on the board for 2026. Yeah, a bit to get to work to for Subiaco. They had a lot of changes as well, so obviously continuity in terms of synergy for some of those youngsters coming up. But again, don't want to sound like a broken record, just highlights how much Olivia Warmoren's loss has probably shifted their probably stocks at an early point. But I mean, there's no point looking back. They got to forget about that and try and, as best they can, find other avenues.
And of course, they did tick off a win, which is the most important thing. Winners by 12 points over Perth were the Lions. So from a slow grind, we go to a classic to finish off round 2. What a great game this one was. It ebbed and flowed all throughout the night. West Perth got the early jump. Claremont then turned back the momentum their way. And then with a lead of 20 points, you would think they'd be home and hosed. West Perth came back in the last quarter, but Claremont just had enough in the tank to win by just 2 points and get their first win of the season. I'm very pleased that Claremont rebounded, but if I'm being honest, they should have put the Falcons away.
Yeah, it was a high-scoring first half, not so much in the second half, being on the call for this one up at Joondalup. But it was a classic in the end. West Perth had only beaten Claremont one time up until this point, and they certainly threatened to do that at different stages. It was a shootout as well. At either end, you had Rachel Ortleb kicking a bag, and then you had Zoe Huggin kicking a bag. It was went both ways in the end. So that was entertaining in the first half. I thought one of them or either of them could have ended up with 8 the way it was going.
Maybe. It was an early contender for Game of the Year with the way it was going at the moment, especially with how Claremont controlled the game, and then West Perth took it back in the second half. And he talked about Huggett getting those 4 goals. Megan Norbury again was sensational with 21 touches, 19 for Ellie McAvoy. Sarah Rio had 15 coming off midfield, played a bit up forward as well. But Rachel Ortleb, she too responded brilliantly for Claremont. You know, she was only held to that 1 goal in the early minutes last week against Swan Districts, but she turned things around with a marvellous bag of 4.
Yeah, they just know how to find her. And it's the same with Zoe Huggett as well, which at an early stage, only a second game, the synergy looks really on point there. One player, a couple of players I wanted to highlight. McAvoy kicked a couple of goals, had 19 disposals, really got West Perth back into the game at a crucial stage. As well as Matilda Husband, who kicked a nice goal, grabbing it out of the ruck and going all the way herself. But one player I really, really wanted to highlight was Jess Freem for Claremont. She's got running speed like I've never seen it before. She can take the game on. Sometimes maybe does to do a bit too much, but you can't fault her enthusiasm to try and want to take the game on.
You can't fault that endeavour either. You know, if she's got that speed across the ground and is willing to take the game on, her teammates are expected to follow. And I'll add to that point that you made about Jess Freem, Juliet Kelly. 36 disposals. She also has got that great will to take it on, and she did.
Best on ground for mine. She was unbelievable, just in the contest, doing it all. So had 36 as well, 10 tackles. So whenever she gets high numbers, she seems to back it up with the tackles as well, which means she has a great balance of offense and defense.
And also had 6 inside 50s as well. So a great performance by Juliet Kelly. And the Tigers, they're back in the winning vein for season 2026, winners by just 2 points. West Perth, though, should not be discontent with that loss. It was a hell of an effort against the reigning premiers. 2 rounds down in the WAFL W. Time flies, but it's been a great start of the season so far. We'll preview round 3 on Thursday, and it all starts on that Friday night too. East Fremantle and Swan Districts. That will be a banger. Okay, Rothy, time for the votes. What have you dished up for round 2?
Yeah, so we'll start with the 1 vote. Zoe Keeley in the ruck for East Fremantle. I thought she was instrumental. Had the 21 touches, 32 hit-outs, which was comfortably more than the next best at 14. Had the 10 tackles as well. So she was a real shining light that... maybe not a household name just yet, but putting her name on the map. Zoe Huggett kicking that bag of 5 for 4 for West Perth. I think in a second game they went to her. She delivered. Was strong, making a contest and going back to finish her work. 3 votes for Juliet Kelly in that same game. Thought was best on ground and can't sing the praise of her anymore. 4 votes for Noel McNaughton, another best on ground performance, 29 disposals, 2 goals against Peel. I thought, she was the major difference in the end. And then for back-to-back weeks, Swan
she's done it again.
Jamie Henry, 5 votes, going to a perfect 10 from 2 rounds. There's not much more I can say. She was just so dominant, continues to do it, and continues to send a message to the rest of the comp that she's not only a Darrick medal favourite, but she probably should be on an AFLW list.
Yeah, definitely. She's got that calibre to be on any AFLW list, regardless of where the teams are on the ladder. Just tremendous performance by Jamie Henry in that win over South. and back-to-back top guns to start the first 2 rounds. I don't think we've had that in Around the Waffles vote casting. Never.
It's going to be a real headache for opposition teams, but a lot easier said than done to shut her down. But that's going to be a key task for all teams if they're going to try and beat what is, at the moment is a formidable Swans outfit.
No doubt about it, and it's led by the back-to-back top gun, Jamie Henry, 10 votes in 2 games. Just unbelievable. We'll clear a break, and when we do come back, we'll have our top 3 plays of the week, and we'll wrap things up on our Easter Monday edition of Around the Waffle. Stay with us.
Hey Siri, how to connect Bluetooth to Mac truck?
Sullivan 2, what's your position?
Just a midfielder, mate.
On your left. Oh, come on, get out of the way.
Car Stereo Morley, proudly supplying and fitting quality car stereos for over 15 years, selling top name brands like Alpine, Focal, Rockford Fosgate. From a simple upgrade to complete custom systems, stop in and see Grant and the boys at 61 Russell Street, Morley, or visit us online at carstereo.com.au.
And you're back with us here on Around the Waffle on the WA Sporting Hub and Around the Waffle YouTube channels, and also on your podcast service. And it's all thanks to Sullivan Logistics, Front Row Screens, District Promotions, and Grant's Car Stereo. Okay, at this time of the show, Rothy, on a Monday, we have our top 3 plays of the week. And we're going to start over at Laff Lane. I was at this game, Perth and West Coast. The Eagles knew they were in for a tough afternoon. The Demons were all over them right throughout the game. But Bailey Williams, who was laid in on the day of the match, decided to give the Eagles something to cheer about. A long-range bomb from 65 out on three-quarter time.
It was, unbelievable. Well backed up by you as well on the call. It was, I guess, a consolation for West Coast going into that last quarter and, putting his name up. And as a late in as well to do that was ultra impressive.
And a lot of people are saying he should be back on an AFL list before too long if he keeps this up.
Yeah, he's obviously still on the Eagles list, he's another option, especially with Matt Flynn not in the best of form, and he probably adds that bit more of agility in the ruck for West Coast and going forward.
Now, any football player can attest to this in our second play, that you get a bit of advice from the crowd if you're aiming for a set shot at goal from the boundary. Kai Omerod had this situation happen on Thursday night, but didn't need to shout the perfect response.
Yeah, absolutely. I was on the call for this one, and they were missing shots so much easier than this into the lead up. And he said, "I'll just make this one look easy when it was a lot harder from the boundary, much needed goal." And slotted it. And there was a few Peel players not playing on the fence on Thursday night, letting me know about it. And he had the last laugh in the end.
Certainly did. The best response from fan advice is to silence them by slotting a goal from the boundary line. Just magnificent. Well done, Kai Omerod. Great performance from him on Thursday night. And then we go to another game that you were at. This is number 3, the WAFL W Classic between Claremont and West Perth. Matilda Husband, she picked up where she left off from her milestone game last week, but she really turned it up a notch with that great goal from the boundary.
Yeah, game 50, grabbed it out of the ruck, and the lead up to that, she was assisting a lot of the players as well. So to get some reward off her boot, really, really impressive stuff. So, she is improving by the week. I know she's an experienced player, but wins a lot of hit-outs, key disposal winner when it comes to handballs to her key mids. And, obviously, she doesn't kick that goal, they probably, dare say it, don't win. So, it was a moment to remember for that one.
And that is the top 3 plays of the week here on Around the Waffle. We'll have another batch on Monday as part of our usual recap program. Well, that's the long weekend done and dusted, Rothy. It feels like it's gone so quickly, but it was a great feast of footy.
It was, and look forward to another week coming up, so I'll see you later in the week. Thanks, Paul.
I'll see you on Thursday, Rothy, and fans, we look forward to your company as well here on Around the Waffle. Our Thursday recap show, Around the Waffle on Location, is back, and we look forward to round 2 of the Waffle season and round number 3 of the WAFL W. You can check us out on Facebook and Instagram for all your social content, and also on the Around the Waffle YouTube channel and on your podcast service. Thanks so much for your company. We'll see you Thursday.